Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Way 31 special coverage on this solemn day in the city of Huntsville, and not just the city of Huntsville, but North Alabama as a whole. I'm Way 31 news anchor Dan Schaefer. We're broadcasting live from the Mayfair Church of Christ in Jones Valley for the funeral service of Huntsville police officer Billy Clardy III. Hundreds have gathered here for the funeral service, which starts in just a few minutes inside the sanctuary behind me. The day got started about noon today with a viewing for family and friends and really anyone who wanted to stop by from noon until 2 o'clock this afternoon to pay their respects to Officer Clardy. He was shot to death in the line of duty on Friday during a drug enforcement operation. Officer Clardy was a almost 20-year veteran of the Huntsville Police Department. He was a member of the STAC unit, which is an elite drug enforcement community here, a drug enforcement operation here in the area of Huntsville, but it includes members from law enforcement from several agencies across North Alabama. This was a man who voluntarily put his life before others. He stepped between us and the bad guys, and unfortunately on Friday paid the ultimate price for that. His family is here. They have gathered here. This family is no stranger to North Alabama. The Clardys have been here for generations. And in fact, Billy Clardy III's father was also a Huntsville police officer. Billy Clardy Jr. was killed in the line of duty, unfortunately, back in 1978. Billy Clardy III, just a young boy of 6 or 7 years old when that happened, but obviously that must have made an impression on him because he followed in his father's footsteps to join the Huntsville Police Department as well. Not just Huntsville Police, but he also worked for several other agencies across North Alabama, Ardmore, Fayetteville, Limestone County. He was well known in this area and well respected, not just an officer's officer, but he was also a solid human being and a well-respected member of this community. He not only served the people of Huntsville in uniform, but he did so out of uniform as well. Way 31's Sydney Martin is joining me also here at the church. And Sydney, you've had a lot of contact with Huntsville police departments over the years. Tell us a little bit more about Billy Clardy Jr., Billy Clardy III, I should say.
Dan, well, I've been talking with police officers since we got the news of the shooting on Friday. A lot of them telling me they were out of uniform, at home, off duty. They actually went up to the hospital, put on their uniforms, got in their patrol units, and was there with his family when they received the devastating news that the surgeon at Huntsville Hospital was not able to save him. But I will tell you, over the past couple of years, I've worked with the Huntsville STAC unit, that drug enforcement unit, and have met Billy Clardy personally. And he, was, like everyone said, an incredible human being. And I know a lot of the officers here today are struggling to keep it together. Some of them are going to be speaking this afternoon about him and the impact that he left on their life over his nearly 20-year career at the Huntsville Police Department, and how his life was left too soon. I know some of the officers told me recently that his son actually just joined the Albertville Police Department, and how excited and proud, and how the first person that his son told when he got that offer was his dad.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take you inside the sanctuary now here at Mayfair Community Church of Christ in Jones Valley for the funeral service now of Huntsville Police Officer Billy Clardy III.
We lift up the guys on the STAC team and all the brothers and sisters of the Huntsville Police Department. Father, we ask that you be with us, that you let your presence be felt among us, and that in some way that is beyond words and is beyond our understanding, that you comfort us. Father, we thank you for your love. We are lost, and we are scared. We ask your presence to be with us at this service. We lift up Ashley and Chase and Catherine and Brandon and Anna and Keaton. We lift up the guys on the STAC team and all the brothers and sisters of the Huntsville Police Department. Father, we ask that you be with us, that you let your presence be felt among us, and that in some way that is beyond words and is beyond our understanding, that you comfort us. Father, we thank you for your love and your mercy. We ask you today for your strength. In Jesus' name, amen. We have essentially 3 tasks today. The first is just to get through today. The second is to honor Billy Clardy. And that's probably going to take place when the mayor talks and when chief talks and when guys from the stack unit talk. And then the last thing we want to do is offer some comfort, maybe some perspective from Scripture. When it comes to honoring Billy Clardy, and I really hate to admit this in this crowd, my brother's a lawyer. He says there's a Latin phrase called res ipsa loquitur. It means the thing speaks for itself. You want to honor Billy? Just look around. The thing speaks for itself. Look at the big men who shed tears. Look at the young daughters who loved their daddy and didn't see him as this big, robust. You know how many people can wear a Harley Davidson t-shirt and spell Harley Davidson out all the way across it? Okay. They saw that guy as a teddy bear. They saw that guy as selfless. That's the word that came up over and over and over when I talked to Ashley and the children. His daddy was selfless. You know how you learn to trust somebody? Trust is a measure of selflessness. You may not have ever put those two things together, but the people that you know that are selfless, you trust. And the people that you think are selfish, you don't trust. And that's why these guys put on body armor and go into buildings with each other, because they were with people who were selfless. So to honor Billy Clardy, really the thing just speaks for itself. This outpouring of presence of multiple jurisdictions, of friends and family, of paramedics and firemen, and then all the people who loved and appreciated this man. I have two things I need to read. One was written by Anna, and it's just a handwritten note that she gave me, and I told her I'd try to read it. It's your first full day away from home. I found myself walking into your room just so I can smell you. Well, Dad, you wrote me this while I was at boot camp. Little did I know that I too would just walk into your room just to smell your scent. I find myself waiting for you to bust through the back door. My dad and every police officer is more than just a badge number. They have a name and they have a family. Well, my family's lost her dad. My mother has lost her husband. He will always be our hero and our rock. Our police family has been our comfort, and I will always cherish them. I just want the world to know now how amazing our dad was and how selfless he was. I love you so much, Dad. And Dad, don't forget, Army ain't ready for Marines yet. Now, I'm told that that's what they joked about because she's a Marine and he was in the Army, and that's what Army stood for. I did not say that. She said that, okay? But that's the kind of relationship they had. They honored each other and they joked with each other. Ashley said they'd only been married 13 years. But she said every time they talked about their anniversary, they called it their 43rd anniversary. Because she said our life was just full. We lived a full life. Their motto was work hard, then play hard. And she said they crammed an old person's life into this young life. You want to honor somebody? Listen to his kids talk about him. Listen to his wife talk about him. And you'll hear them say, hey, Dad was selfless. That's a true honor to a man. I've got another thing I'm going to try to read. Now, this one the chief handed to me and said, I think somebody should read this today. Well, when the chief of police hands it to you and says somebody should read it, you don't have a lot of choice. I was 7 years old the last time I saw you. I remember hearing your voice on the police scanner that put me to sleep every night. I also remember the roll call over the radio that May 3rd night when you did not answer. And then the knock on the front door confirming what I already knew. I'm now 39 years old, proudly serving the Huntsville Police Department as you did. I take your spirit with me daily from call to call. Thank you, Dad, for the gift of your name and the time I had with you. You're in my mind every day. I love and miss you. Officer Billy Clardy III, HPD, your son, March the 3rd, 2011. We're talking about how to honor somebody. Just understand the words that he would say to his own father who died in the line of duty. You know how to honor somebody? Look at his attitude toward what his dad instilled in him. And he's got a son who's a police officer, a daughter who's a Marine, and a loving family that said, we're proud of who our dad was and what our dad was. And then the last thing that I'll say in this first part about what to do to honor Billy, we identify ourselves with self-descriptors. In the back of the books that I write, it's Lonnie Jones, counselor and police chaplain. When God talks about himself, God's self-descriptor is love. God is love. For God so loved the world. We know this not because
And we are having some technical difficulties. If you are just joining us, as you know, hearts are heavy across North Alabama today as friends, family, and fellow law enforcement say goodbye to Officer Billy Clardy. People who knew him best describe him as a true friend, a big brother, and a man who always tried to better himself. As we've reported, he was killed in the line of duty last Friday. Today, the heartbroken community of Huntsville says its final goodbyes and shares stories about what an amazing coworker and officer he was. On this cold winter day, police cars from across Alabama and even out of state traveled to Mayfair Church of Christ to the Maple Hill Cemetery. And the route for the procession today went along Carl T. Jones Drive, Airport Road, Whitesburg Drive, and California Street. If you're traveling in that area, we just want to let you know to expect long delays. His funeral is being held right now at Mayfair Church of Christ on Carl T. Jones Drive in Jones Valley. And I believe that we have that shot back up. Let's go to the funeral in progress.
the way his children describe him, the way his wife talks about him, and what God himself said. Greater love has no man than this, that a man will lay down his life for his friends.
Welcome, everyone. As we continue the service, and before we have our mayor, our police chief, stack agents, and Lonnie Jones come back to the podium, would you please take a second to ensure your electronic devices are turned off so we can give complete honor and respect to this family and to this officer. Just a couple of housekeeping things. At the end of the service, we would like as many Huntsville police officers and other agencies with marked units to go ahead of the procession to Maple Hill Cemetery. Officers are to stand at attention by their vehicles, blue lights activated, as the procession arrives. If you would like to be in the procession, it will line up shortly after the service is over. Today is a reminder of the dangers that law enforcement faces every day across the country and in our state. However, today is also a reminder, as you can see in this room, and soon to be in this procession, of our strength. That strength is what this family, our stack agents, our agency need right now. As the chief and mayor will describe in just a few minutes, we cannot say enough about the support for this family and our agency. The phone calls, the emails, text messages, social media posts have been absolutely incredible. The citizens and organizations that have reached out to us, the mayor's office, the chief's office, to help this family is absolutely overwhelming. Please be patient with us in response to all of these. Our goal is to get back with everyone in the coming days in order to provide assistance for the Clardy family. Please continue to give this family, our stack agents, and our city continued prayers and support. I also want to encourage you to reach out to our stack office, share contact information with them if you have a chance to see them today, and continue to uplift them, for it is their strength that will continue to uplift this family. Stack Agent Billy Clardy III was a police officer for the Huntsville Police Department, working as a drug agent as part of the Haida Gulf Coast Task Force. During a drug investigation on December 6, 2019, Stack Agent set up a drug buy where a known offender was to drop off a large amount of drugs at a residence on Levert Street. Upon arrival at the residence, Stack Agent Clardy was immediately shot by the offender on the porch. There was a short foot pursuit, along with other officers on a perimeter, when the offender was eventually captured. Stack Agent Clardy died as a result of gunshot wounds he suffered outside the scope of his bulletproof vest. Agent Clardy is survived by his wife, 5 children, and grandchildren. He is also the son of fallen officer Billy Fred Clardy II, who was killed in the line of duty with Huntsville Police May 3, 1978. First and foremost, Billy was a beloved son, brother, husband, father, and grandfather. He was a U.S. Army veteran, an exceptional police officer with many career accomplishments. He started his career working North Huntsville as a patrol officer and quickly moved to become a community relations officer for several years. He became a part of the very first HPD anti-crime team and then a stack agent where he sacrificed his life for the protection of our city. I'm now going to turn the service over to Huntsville City Mayor Tommy Battle.
As mayor of the city of Huntsville and the city of 200,000 people, it's my job to say thank you to the Clardy family. Thank you for 14 years of service. Thank you for sharing your husband with us, your father, your son, your uncle, many, many statuses. But thank you for sharing Billy with us. He made a difference. He was someone who made a difference in our community. He believed in serve and protect. Now, over the past 18 months, we've lost 2 officers, Keith Earl and Billy Clardy, and both are great losses to our community, to our state, to our city, and to our police force. I first met Billy right after being elected mayor. I was doing ride-alongs with the police department, and Billy was assigned to me my very first ride-along I had with Billy Clardy. Now, I never knew that a car could go from 0 to 60 as quick as it could when Billy Clardy was driving, and I bet y'all had that same experience with him a few times. I didn't know that you had to have a strong neck to be a police officer because of the G's that hit you when your car started going that fast at 0 to 60. But during a ride-along, you're there with an officer, and you're there sitting there, and you talk to him, and you have 3 to 5 hours, and you're sitting there, and you're just kind of talking about things that are going on in the community. And I tell you, during that conversation, Billy talked about his family. He loved his family. And you can tell that one thing he did, well, he had a lot of family, really, and he loved every one of them, but especially his immediate family. He talked about their accomplishments and what they did and what had happened with them. And then he'd zip off from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds again. As a CRO, I remember seeing him as we were at neighborhood meetings or community meetings or the East Huntsville community meeting, and Billy would be there and he would be taking care of people. And he took care of them in such a way that he knew what serve meant. He knew what protect meant, but he really knew the service part of it, and he took care of that community. One of the things he did as a CRO is that he went out and the CRO's job is to work with the homeless, and he went out and he made a whole booklet of each of the homeless, had their picture in there, their contact information. I didn't know that they didn't use real names. They use names like Big Utah and Kentucky Jim and things like that, but he had that in his book. And not many people would go out and do that. I mean, that meant he had to go out in the camps actually to talk to people and have that conversation with them and get to know them. Billy believed in service. As a sergeant, he moved on to the stack unit, and he made a difference in the stack unit. He is someone that will truly be missed. And I think you can tell by looking around this community, he is someone that is supported, and y'all are supported by what he has done. Looking at this community, we see people lined up who want to do something. Many people don't know what to do, but they want to do something to be a part of what Billy started. To Chief McMurray, our command staff, to all of our fellow officers, please know that you are not alone. And know that these people right up here and the people all in here or who are watching this want to tell you, you are not alone. We support the job that you do day to day. We support the job that you do to serve and protect this community. To the Clardy family, we want you to know you're not alone. We will be there with you as the city of Huntsville. As I told you, you're our family. We'll be there till you throw us out. Then we'll probably come back a few times. But we want to say to each of you that we're there for the long haul. We're there to be with you because that's what we do. The citizens of this city surround each of you and each of y'all. We wrap our arms around you all, holding you to comfort you, holding you to show that we care. The people who came down that line today came down to show that we care. There's been emails, there's been Twitters, there's been Facebook posts from all over the United States, throughout this state, throughout the United States, from people in every capacity of life. And all that is to say that this nation cares. Out of the dark and the gloom, and I call this a dark, dreary day, out of this dark and out of this gloom, there appears a light. And the light comes to shine on each of you and each of these officers sitting here. And that light is shining because it wants to say one thing. It wants to say we care, we support, and we believe in you. To the Clardy's, thank you so much. Thank you for 14 great years. Thank you for being part of Huntsville's family. Thank you for making us what we are today. We'll miss Billy, but we'll always be there to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Battle. Thank you, Lonnie. Sometimes it's good to be chief when you can order Lonnie to read something that you don't have the guts to do. I literally handed that to him out in the hall a few minutes ago, and I had no idea what these two were going to talk about, but I want to dovetail on it just a little bit, the few thoughts I put together. And forgive me for not reading too much. I'm not a very good speaker when it comes to reading and trying to tell you how I feel about something, so I'm going to speak from the heart. I've got a couple notes here as well. Ashley and the entire Clardy family, thank you for trusting the HPD family. You have given us a great honor by allowing us to conduct this funeral service for you. And I can't tell you how much that means. It means a lot. This is a great privilege for us to serve you this way. Thank you for allowing us into your home and your personal life during this difficult time. And as the mayor said, we're probably going to be there for a while. We don't give up on our widows like that very often. We're going to stick with you as long as you can take us. Our family is definitely yours. Back on Sunday, my two deputy chiefs and I, we took our wives out to visit with you, and we were, of course, this is all new to us, and we were feeling very bad. And after talking to you, and you told us about Billy and told us how you couldn't have changed him, and you wouldn't have changed him, and you love him the way he is, and he wouldn't have been Billy any other way. I don't know how, but we left that house feeling better than when we got there, and it was because of you. You're a strong woman, Ashley. Thank you for helping us, and I think you're going to pull this whole family through this. You're doing fine. The support for the Clardy family, as mentioned, has been tremendous, not just in our own community, but wow, what an outpouring nationwide I'm getting, the mayor's getting. This attendance today is capacity crowd, but these love offerings that keep rolling in, these emails, social media posts, and most of all the prayers just keep coming. Don't stop that. The other night after the memorial down at the police building, Washington, D.C. called my cell phone, and that doesn't happen much, so I picked it up. Who's calling me? It was a director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, and he wanted to give you his condolences, Ashley and the family. What an amazing thing. When I went through the reception line, I had New York City Police Department. I had Chicago Police Department. I said I wasn't going to do this because I know I've left some out, but wow, Huntsville, Alabama, you've made a difference. And thank you, police. When law enforcement suffers a loss like this, there's 600,000 officers in this country, and we all feel it. Thank you again for this tribute to our fallen brother, stack agent, and Huntsville police officer Billy Fred, or just Billy III. My staff and I have been poring over the personnel file of Billy. We're trying to understand, pull everything we can out about him. It's amazing how much you forget, and he's been here 14 years with us. But what a story of paperwork we uncovered. This trail documents a history of commitment, self-sacrifice, as Lonnie mentioned, accomplishments, and it tells a story of a person driven by integrity, courage, professionalism, and knowledge. The very words on every patch of a Huntsville police officer is in his personnel file. I'd like to go over a few of these real quickly with you because you're going to be as amazed as we were that this person was as humble as he really is. We had to go collect all of his awards out of supply to pin on his uniform because this was not a guy who wore his uniforms. He didn't wear his awards as a badge of honor. Instead, he served side by side, so you wouldn't know it. He started over 2 decades of law enforcement way back before 1996. I was talking to Ardmore Police out in the lobby. They said, "We trained him." I said, "No, you didn't." "Oh, yeah, we brought him up as a reserve officer. We had him first." They're taking great pride. So I didn't even know that until I got here. Ardmore, way to go. Then he went to Limestone County Sheriff Deputy, and then he went to Fayetteville Police Department. A couple years up there, made sergeant real quickly. It's the way he is. He was a servant leader. Then he went to the military. What service could you give other than putting your life on the line for this country? He went overseas in a combat zone and fought for us. When he came back, we grabbed him up quick at HPD. 47th Lateral Academy. In 2005, he started with us. And just listen to what he did in 14 years. 19 certificates of commendation. 2 unit citations with the anti-crime unit. whole bunch of letters of appreciation that rolled in. We counted at least 8 that were fully documented. We found out that he had military service awards that we weren't even aware of. Some of them we found out weren't even in his personnel file. We found out later through researching his buddies in the military. But he did have an Army lapel pin, a Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, a National Defense Medal, an Army Service Ribbon, an Overseas Service Ribbon, just to name what we could find. But while he was here at the police department, what a difference this one person made. He was recognized for the Partnership for a Drug-Free Community and won an award for the HIDA Drug Task Force because of the amount of work that he was performing, the arrests, the drug seizures, for distinguished and dedicated service, and that was in October of this year. That's when he was recognized. I remember this one like it was yesterday because I was 2 blocks away when he won a Meritorious Service Award. He got into a short pursuit, car pursuit, and it turned into a foot pursuit by himself. He run this person down, and during the fight, Billy broke his leg right below his knee, somewhere around his calf. You can imagine the pain. I can only tell you that it was one of the worst screams I ever heard. He screamed like a girl. He broke his leg fighting this person. But he overcame it, and he was given a Meritorious Service Award for his work. That only comes about with exceptional performance in the duty of extraordinary circumstances, and our captains don't give those away very often. He recently made Exchange Club Officer of the Year for making 178 drug arrests. Tell me that doesn't make a difference. We mentioned some units, but did you know when he started out, he started working for the Mobile Field Force, the Incident Response Team. He was highly trained in his All Hazards Rapid Response Team. That's voluntary. He was an FTO. He trained a lot of the young officers and now the older officers that are sitting here now. He was trained in ARCON training, which is arrest and control techniques for the academy. He did that on his own. He was a CRO, a community servant, and probably one of the best. And if you ask our community watch people, they actually started an award several years ago, and they call it the Billy Clardy Annual Award. Now, how often do you get an annual award while you're still alive? That's Billy Clardy. That award will go out now and live forever. That's our community watch's appreciation for what he has done for them. The anti-crime team, I can't say enough about the dangerous job that group of individuals do. In 1 year, almost 200 guns were taken off of the street because of this team. They're out there every evening profiling the most dangerous people who are driving in Huntsville. Not because you're driving, we'd have to put you all in jail for that, but because of the people who are carrying the guns and the drugs. These are the officers who have the street smarts to get the bad guys off the street. They're making a difference, and Billy was a big part of that success. Gulf Coast HIDA sent him to a hotel and motel parcel interdiction school where he learned more about his job as a stack agent. He's certified law assessment specialist by the American Crime Prevention Institute. He went to mental illness training and was certified there because he wanted to. He wanted to know more about the homeless, about mental health preparedness, about de-escalation of skills. The mayor mentioned how detailed he was with the homeless. Well, guess what? When the gang intel unit needed to find a bad guy, you know who they went to? Billy. He had a picture of everybody in Huntsville who claimed to be a gang member, and he had a picture of their graffiti that was sprayed under a bridge or in somebody's house. It was the most comprehensive books, 4-ring binders of silly Polaroid pictures. I was a gang investigator, so I needed that kind of intel. Billy was a meticulous record keeper, and what a great asset with the Huntsville Police Department, and taking classes. And I'm just advanced search and seizure classes, vehicle contraband. I'm just going to stop. You know why? because if Billy was here, he'd say, "Shut up, Chief. Let's get on to something that makes me who I am." And I know what he'd tell me. He'd say, "For all you Auburn nations, War Eagle." Is there any Auburn fans here who want to say War Eagle back to Billy? War Eagle. Thank you. And they're in the Outback Bowl. So way to go, Billy. That's just Billy. He's got to have, he's the biggest Auburn fan you ever seen. And since Friday, the captains all met together, my command staff. That's the award committee. And they only meet a couple times a year and do awards, but they had an emergency session, put a Purple Heart with a Valor on his chest and for his family. That's the second highest award you can get in the Huntsville Police Department, period. Way to go, captains. Thank you. Finally, I want to talk to all the police officers here. There's a large audience listening to us, streaming live, listening to us, but you're full here, and I appreciate every one of you, and I love you all for showing your concern. But Lonnie was talking about the honor of this job. Honor's why we do it, guys. Love and honor, that's it. You can't explain it because you're a cop. But this is an honorable profession, even though since Vietnam, there are people in this country trying to remove the honor of a first responder. It is not a dishonorable job. This is, of all first responders, you military who fight those wars on foreign soils, God bless you. You keep those wars from coming over here. And when we have to fight here, you first responders, you do it here. But I want to read you this one short couple sentences that sums it all up for you. And it was read to some cadets at the Naval Academy by Bill Bennett. And it was read way back in 1997, but it's been quoted many times over. Listen how he defines honor, and tell me if this is not Billy Clardy's life. He said, "Honor never grows old, and honor rejoices the heart of age. It does so because honor is, finally, about defending those noble and worthy things that deserve defending, even if it comes at a high cost. In our time, that may seem like social disapproval, public scorn, hardship, persecution, or as always, even death itself. So the question remains," he says, "what is worth defending? What is worth dying for? What is worth living for?" You police officers and you first responders need to keep your head on a swivel, but you can only do that when you keep your head high. This is an honorable profession. There's only two things that you control that nobody can take away from you. That's your honor and your integrity. If you give that up, you probably don't need to be a first responder, but that defines the life of Billy Clardy. Other people first. He was a man of honor. He served our country honorably through the U.S. Army and his selfless service to local communities through his work, his sacrifice, and yes, even his life now. He died following in the footsteps of his own father, doing exactly what he loved to do the most, serving others and leaving for us an example to follow. And now we're all the better for it, for knowing him and loving him. Thank you, Officer Billy Clardy.
Now I grew up down an old dirt road in a town you wouldn't know. My pops picked the place up for $1,500 back in 1964. My grandfather was a drinker back in the day, he put him down. But a war is known to change a man, and the whiskey's known to change a man. That's not me.
If you are just joining us, this is a special edition of Way 31 where we're just spending some time remembering and honoring fallen officer Billy Clardy. Hearts are certainly heavy all across North Alabama today as friends and family members and fellow law enforcement say their goodbye to Officer Billy Clardy. People who knew him best today described him as a true friend, a big brother, and a man who truly always tried to better himself. As we've reported, he was killed in the line of duty last Friday, and today the heartbroken community of Huntsville says its final goodbyes. And they also share stories about what an amazing coworker and officer he was. We're also preparing on this cold winter day for police cars from across Alabama and even out of state to travel from Mayfair Church of Christ to the Maple Hill Cemetery. And the route goes along Carl T. Jones Drive, Airport Road, Whitesburg Drive, and California Street. If you are traveling in that area, expect some long delays. His funeral will be held at Mayfair Church of Christ on Carl T. Jones Drive in Jones Valley. And a public viewing is scheduled from noon until 2 with a service to follow. As we've reported, Officer Clardy leaves behind a wife, 5 children, and several grandchildren to cherish his memory. There is a memorial fund set up for the family at Redstone Federal Credit Union. So if you or anyone you know would like to make a donation to the Billy Clardy Memorial Fund, you can just stop by that branch near you, and that account will be open for 6 months. The Madison Police Department is also lending a hand to their brothers in blue today. The department will cover any calls for the Huntsville department during the funeral. Officers will patrol in the Huntsville jurisdiction west of the Madison city limits to allow Huntsville police officers to attend Officer Clardy's service. And the governor has also ordered all flags in Alabama to be lowered to half-staff in honor of Officer Clardy. And Governor Ivey said that Clardy's many years of admirable service to his state and county are to be commended. And she also offered sympathies and prayers to Huntsville police and the Clardy family. For all of our previous coverage or reporting on this story, you can go to our website, waytv.com, and you can also find this story on our homepage. But right now, you are taking a live look at the service remembering and honoring Officer Clardy. If you're just joining us now, this is a very special coverage. We're coming on early to cover Billy Clardy's procession and funeral. And let's go back to that coverage live.
All right, thanks very much, Naja. I'm Dan Schaefer, live outside the Mayfair Church of Christ here in Jones Valley. And as you can see behind me, that flag is at half-staff. Inside the sanctuary is the funeral for Billy Clardy III. As we mentioned earlier in the newscast, this family is unfortunately no stranger to tragedy. Billy Clardy III's father, Billy Clardy Jr., was also a Huntsville police officer who was also unfortunately killed in line of duty back in 1978. Billy Clardy III, just a 6 or 7-year-old boy when that tragedy occurred, but he decided to follow in his father's footsteps, become a law enforcement officer, and serve this community well for many, many years. In fact, the Clardy family has been in this area for generations, and it, by all accounts, was not just a fine officer, but a fine human being as well. He dedicated his life not just to enforcing the law, but also to helping his community, not just through law enforcement, but through being a good person. He was out there helping the homeless. He was doing all kinds of altruistic things for the community, just helping out as best he could. As you can see, the weather has turned rather cold and gloomy. It's snowing right now, but as gloomy as it is a celebration of life inside the sanctuary. Let's take you back inside now for the rest of Billy Clardy's funeral.
Thank you, Mayor, Lonnie, Lieutenant Johnson, and Chief McMurray. Thank you for your kind words about an absolutely wonderful man. My name is Lieutenant Tony McEllier, and I have not only had the distinct pleasure of being his supervisor for the past year, but I am honored to have worked alongside Billy Clardy for the majority of my career. Not soon after we started HPD, we began working on Second Shift North together as patrol officers nearly 15 years ago. I learned quickly that he had a passion for working drugs and taking drugs off of our streets, as I did. I found myself watching and observing how he did his job and what he did. Not only what he did, but how he did it. A few years later, when I was selected to become a member of the STAC team, and he was selected to become a member as a CRO, I would still often find myself going to sit in his office and discuss my investigations with him. I knew his vast knowledge of all the drug offenders in North Huntsville could always assist me in my investigations. His time always meant so much to me. Everyone in this room that knew Billy could go on and on about the type of cop that he was, and boy, was he one of the best. But one thing I want to discuss today is the type of man that Billy was. Billy was always someone that lifted everyone's spirits as soon as he entered the room. Anyone that's ever worked in narcotics knows the countless hours that we work and how tired you can get. And when these guys would come into the Friday morning meeting and they would be exhausted for all of the hours they put in earlier in that week, he would always find a way to make everyone laugh. Instantly, we forgot about all of the hours that we had worked and just how tired we were. One thing that I'm going to miss the most are the mornings at the STAC office. Every morning when the guys started rolling in, I always try to go around to the office and give them a fist bump and tell them good morning. And I knew they were tired, but I just wanted to give them a fist bump, get their day started off, let them know I was there for them. I found myself sitting in my office every morning, and I would look forward for Billy to get to the office. When he got to his office, I knew as soon as I walked in, I turned the corner around the office and I gave him a fist bump. He would always say, "What's up, LT?" It made me smile, and it got my day started off right every single day. That, I can tell you, will most definitely be missed. Billy was also the model of a great husband, son, father, and friend. To his beautiful wife, Ashley, and his wonderful, beautiful family and children, Katie, Anna, Keaton, Brandon, and Chase. I hope you truly know how much he loved you. I know we borrowed him for many hours every week, and sometimes it seemed like you only saw him in passing. But this I can guarantee you, and I want you to rest assured that at some point every day he mentioned you. He talked about you all the time. Billy was very proud of his family. And everyone that was around him, they knew that. Now that he's gone, I hope each of you know that you have a family in us forever. In the coming days, months, and years, we're going to be right by your side anytime that you need us. Billy had our six for years, and I can guarantee you this, now it's our turn to have yours. The last thing I want to discuss is something that Ashley told me Sunday morning. Ashley, who was undoubtedly one of the strongest women I have ever met. She explained to us where she got her strength from. She said that over the years, Billy had prepared her for this very moment. Billy told her what she needed to do if this time ever came. She said that he was almost preparing her for this exact time. She also told us that she is so thankful that our guys were by his side in his last moments, because that is exactly where he wanted to be. Ashley, now I know that must have been hard to say, but I want you to know how much that meant to everybody standing behind me, including myself, Sunday morning. Thank you so much for sharing that from the bottom of our hearts. To Ashley and the rest of his beautiful family, we love you, and we're here to pick up where he left off, because that's exactly what he would have done for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Y'all try to bear with me. My name is Blake Dean. I've had the honor and privilege of working with Billy Clardy on the STAC team for the last year and a half. I'd always known of Billy and his good reputation as a police officer, but I never really knew him until he joined STAC. I was lucky enough that Sergeant Houck allowed me to train Billy. Over the course of the following 2 months, Billy and I were together nonstop. Neither of us were at home very often. During that time, I learned a lot about Billy Clardy. First and foremost, I learned that Billy had a relationship with Jesus Christ and that he was a man of high morals. I learned that Billy was a family man through and through. He loved his wife Ashley dearly. His kids were his world. I know that because he told me. I know that because of the countless stories that he shared with me. I know that because of the countless pictures he shared with me. I learned that Billy was a true cop's cop. He was the guy that you wanted with you if you were in a fight. He was the guy that both new police officers and seasoned supervisors could go to for advice. Billy was always looking for excitement. He would call me almost nightly and say, "Coach, let's get a pursuit going." His idea of policing was not coming to work, finding a parking lot, and answering his calls. Billy, like most of us, had been in trouble for minor things in this department. He never used that as an excuse not to work. He was here to do his job, a job that he loved, and a job that he told me numerous times that he would do for free. More than that, though, he was here to take care of his fellow police officers. Over the past year and a half, Billy has become an invaluable member of the STAC team. There's a void in our unit that nobody will ever be able to fill. Billy was our best ram guy. He would knock down storm doors and wooden doors all with one motion. He made countless drug arrests and saved countless lives. He was the most dependable guy in our unit. He would be there no matter what time of day or night it was. He was our comedian. He always knew how to lighten the mood. Some days Billy might show up to work wearing stone-washed skinny jeans, Air Force Ones, and a flat bill hat. Other days he might show up wearing Wranglers and cowboy boots. Billy made all of our lives better and more fun. I'll end with this. I talked to Ashley outside the hospital on Friday night. She told me that Billy looked up to me and that I was his number one. Billy had that completely twisted. I looked up to Billy Clardy, and he will always be my hero, and he will be the hero to all these guys behind me. We need more Billy Clardys in this world.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Morris, Jr. I got some stuff written down, guys, but I don't think I'm going to read much of it. Because I met Billy 10 years ago. I was a community relations officer, and I needed some help from patrol about the homeless. And they said, get with Billy. So, okay, I go and get with Billy, and Billy got a book of every homeless guy in Huntsville. He said, Momo. I don't let nobody call me Momo but Billy. He said, Momo, I got a book of all the gang members also. I'm like, this cat is sharp. So when the community relations officer position came open in North Precinct, my first word was, I want Billy. And we became partners, and our friendship rolled right into it. We became very good friends. I got to meet his family, Ashley and the kids, and everything that we had going on, Billy made sure that Ashley and the kids were involved. Billy was one of the most hardest working people I ever met. I've been in this department right at 25 years, and he was always there. He had no problem with being there, whether he just went to bed at 4 o'clock, and I could call him. I said, Billy, I got this guy I've been watching, and I need you at 7:30 that morning. He said, Momo, I'll be there. He was
such a hard worker that when we was community relations officers together, that he had this idea of decorating the precinct for Halloween. I'm like, Billy, what we gonna do with that? And he had this great idea of just darkening it out. We put up all kind of scary things for the kids, and it was just magnificent. I was like, Billy, I'm so glad you're my partner. And I can still remember the day he called me and say, Momo, I'm thinking about putting in for stat. I was like, you sure you want to do that? I say, if you want to do that, I'll make sure you get in. I said, but is it okay with Ashley? And of course, you know him being a man and all. He said, oh yeah. I said, no, Billy, you talk to Ashley because I know who run that show. You know. No, and he called me back and he said, Ashley said I can do it. And when we had to vote somebody into staff, and I told him Billy would be the #1 guy to jail with this unit. And all of these guys would say he was the #1 guy to jail with this unit. Billy was an awesome officer. Billy didn't mind working hard, and he was so selfless. And we'll miss him very, very much. Thank you, Ashley.
If you are just joining us, this is a special Way 31 broadcast. We are taking time to honor fallen officer Billy Clardy. We've been bringing you live coverage of the services to honor him. And today we've heard from people who knew him best. They have described him as a true friend, a big brother, and a man who always tried to better himself. We heard from the lieutenant earlier who described him as a hard worker and the type of person that people love to be around. As we've reported, he was killed in the line of duty last Friday while responding to a drug bust operation. And today we also learned that his father was an officer and was killed in the line of duty as well back in 1978. We also heard from Blake Dean, a good friend of Clarity's, and he said that Clarity loved his wife Ashley dearly and always enjoyed sharing pictures of their family. And they say he was a man of God. Let's go back out to that service.
Thanks, Naja. Dan Schaefer reporting live here from the Mayfair Church of Christ in Jones Valley, where that service is just about to wrap up, we understand. Our Sydney Martin is in there right now, and she'll have a report for us when she comes back out here in just a few minutes. But as you mentioned, Naja, it is not only a memorial service, but it is a celebration of life for Clardy. He had a big impact on this community, not just in law enforcement, but as a human being and as a member of this community. It was always his idea to help not just the people who need the help because he's a police officer, but the community as a whole. And that's what they're celebrating inside right now. I think we're going to go back inside the sanctuary now to wrap up this funeral for Billy Clardy III.
Like me, stands up for the innocent and the weak. I'm laying down my gun, I'm hanging up my boots. Till Dad, I don't regret that I followed in his shoes.
And if you're just joining us, this is a special Way 31 broadcast where we are taking time to honor fallen officer Billy Clardy. And right now you are taking a live look as police officers prepare to and are starting to arrive at the funeral service for him in his honor. Today we've heard from a number of people who knew him well, who described what an amazing man he is, a family man, a loving father of 5 children with several grandchildren as well. And as we've reported, he was killed in the line of duty just last Friday, and this is just a special tribute to him all day long. Also learned from people who knew him best about just how much he adored his family, and they say he was a man of God. They concluded by saying that we need more of Billy Clardy's In This World. And we also heard from a good friend named Tommy Morris. He was a 25-year veteran of the force, and the two were friends for more than 10 years, and they were also partners, and he described him as an incredibly hard worker, and also spoke about getting that call one day when Billy Clardy said that he wanted to join that special drug task force, and his partner said, "You better check with your wife, Ashley. We know who's in charge," and he did, and she supported him in his decision. But again, just described as an incredibly hard worker, and we can see officers starting to gather at that funeral this afternoon. We also expect to see very shortly police cars from all across Alabama and even out of state traveling from the Mayfair Church of Christ to the Maple Hill Cemetery. And just to let you know, this route is going to go along Carl T. Jones Drive to Airport Road to Whitesburg Drive and then to California Street. This is a live look inside that funeral service that we just listened in on. But if you are traveling in the area, we want to let you know to expect some long delays. His funeral will be held at Mayfair Church of Christ on Carl T. Jones, and you can see that auditorium just filled with hundreds of people paying tribute and honoring him. Let's listen into that service right now.
Of how much this man was loved and how much he loved. 3 tasks today we got to get through today. We got to honor Billy. That's been done. And then comfort. And let me just tell you, that's not going to happen. Can't take away the pain. Can't take away the hurt. Can't take away this burden. It'll be something we learn to crawl with. And then we'll learn to walk with it. And some days, we'll be able to run a little bit. I can't give you any comfort. What's better than comfort is courage. Because courage is not being afraid. If you've never been afraid, you just ain't done much. But courage is the ability to step forward and do the next thing even when you are afraid. And I just need to offer 2 perspectives from a theological viewpoint. Number 1 is the why. It wasn't Billy's time. God doesn't kill police officers because of some cosmic purpose. That's the work of somebody else. Romans 8:28 is a Bible passage that says, we know, not we think, not we guess, not we hope, but we know all things work together for good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. That doesn't teach that God does these things and moves us around like little chess pieces. What it teaches is that we live in a world controlled by physics and corrupted by evil. And that when those things happen, God can make sense of the senseless. But God didn't do this to your dad, okay? The devil did this to this planet. I discovered my understanding of Romans 8:28 with a magic marker. And I wasn't sniffing the fumes, okay? I played a game with my daughter when she was growing up called the Scribble game. I'm a cartoonist. I paid for my books in college drawing pictures. And she would draw pictures, she would scribble, and I would turn them into pictures. We played it one night at Macaroni Grill in Nashville with a bunch of folks, and several months later we were at these people's houses who had been at the grill with us, and she said, last weekend our neighbor's son got sick and we kept their daughter while they took him to the emergency room, and we let him sleep in Joshua's new bedroom. And we got up the next morning. She had gotten up during the night and she'd taken a red magic marker and walked around that bedroom as high as a 4-year-old can reach and had written some kind of hieroglyphics. She said, would you like to play the Scribble game in our bedroom? I said, I'm sorry. She said, well, if you ever write a children's book, we'll have original Lonnie Jones artwork in our house, and if we don't do a good job, we'll paint over it anyway. So they let me go into their bedroom with a set of permanent markers and draw on their wall. It was awesome. There's a perfect letter S that was a brachiosaurus beside an erupting volcano. This little girl had somehow managed to draw an almost perfectly straight vertical line at an angle, and I put a Jedi Knight around that standing on a mushroom. And while I was drawing in that room, I thought about Romans 8:28. See, I walk into my room and there's my wall, and sometimes I get marks on my wall because I don't do smart things. I'm human and I'm flawed. Sometimes I get marks on my wall because somebody who's evil takes a slap at my wall. Sometimes I get marks on my wall just because I live in a world where walls get marks on them. And I stand here looking at the mess. And Romans 8:28 teaches that God says, hey man, give me a marker. And when I hand my marker to God, he makes sense of it. He's not a cartoonist. He paints sunsets and snowscapes and rainbows and ocean floors and the Milky Way at night. So if I can offer you some courage, understand that this thing didn't have a purpose and this thing wasn't caused by God. But if you'll give your marker to God, God can make it make sense. And that's one part of courage. Second part of courage comes from this verse in 2 Corinthians. Paul is an apostle. He's writing to a bunch of people that live in a city called Corinth. And he simply writes these words, 2 Corinthians 16. We do not lose heart. That doesn't mean we don't hurt. It doesn't mean we're not scared. It doesn't mean we're not mad. It doesn't mean we don't get discouraged. We do not lose heart, even though the outward man is perishing. The inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is just for a moment, is working for us a more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. And we do not focus on the things which are seen, but the things which are not seen. The things which are seen are temporary. The things which are not seen are eternal. And we know that if our earthly house, this tent, and that's the way the Bible always describes this stuff, is it's a tent, it's not permanent. It's insubstantial, it's weak, and it's temporary. If this tent is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands. For we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, because we do not want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up for life. And God has prepared us for this by giving us His Son and the Spirit as a guarantee. What that teaches is you can look at life in three perspectives. You can look at the external, and that's this stuff. And you can look at the internal, and the internal is eternal. See, when Billy died, he did not become a spirit. He's always been a spirit. It was just in this box. It was just in this tent. And what the Bible teaches to give us courage in days like this is that we don't focus on the external, but we focus on the internal, because the internal is eternal. It lasts forever. It's the idea that, well, when my daughter was little, her hamster died. I've got a certificate from the American Academy of Bereavement. I'm trained in trauma and have a master's degree in psychology. You know what good that does you when your hamster dies? And we sat on the bed and we talked about the dumb hamster. And I said, sweetheart, everything that lives dies. And hamsters don't live as long as dogs. And dogs don't live as long as people, and people don't live as long as trees. Everything that lives dies. Then I read this verse. And I had to call my daughter back. And I had to tell her, honey, the Bible says that mortality is swallowed up by life. Did you hear that? See, we think that being mortal versus being immortal is that immortals don't die and that mortals do. The Bible says that mortality, this stuff, is swallowed up by life. And the courage that we take away today is not that everything that lives dies, but everything that dies lives. And that's a promise from God. Now, I'm not a good enough theologian, and I'm not a deep enough person to tell you that I can tell you what happens in the afterlife. I don't know if the spirit stays inanimate until resurrection. I don't know if we go to the place of waiting called paradise. I don't know where Billy is, but I know Billy is. And that's courage. See, the sun's not brighter at midnight or noon. The sun's the same brightness all the time. It's just our proximity to it because of the tilt of the earth. The sun is not hotter in January or hotter in July. It's the tilt of the earth and the direct versus the indirect rays. Billy is just as bright and just as warm and loves you just as much right now as he ever has, and he will continue to do so. And in order for us to get through today, we've got to believe that he is. King David's son was sick, and King David laid on the floor and he wouldn't eat. And he saw his servants talking, and he walked up to him and said, "What's the matter?" And they said, "The son is dead." And he combed his beard and he washed his hair and he began to eat food. And they said, what when your son was sick, you laid in the floor and you wouldn't eat. And David said, when he was suffering, I hoped he'd get better. But now that he's gone, he can't come to me. But I shall go to him. Billy's waiting on us. He's eternal. He's immortal. He doesn't have a soul. He is a soul. And if I can offer you any courage today to get through this, is that we've got to rely on the promise. We've got to rely on the belief, not the belief, rely on the knowledge that we live forever. And it's just a temporary separation, and we'll be with him again. All of us who loved him, and all of us that he loved back. God bless you. May you rest in his hope, his care, and his mercy. And may God use us as his ministers to minister to you. God bless you all.
That concludes the service. We ask at this time that as many volunteer HPD personnel as possible go ahead and exit the building and begin making your way to Maple Hill. We have task force officers there to assist you with parking. So if the rest of you could just remain in the building, you don't have to stay seated. If you need to stand up and stretch, you can. When you arrive, officers, please turn on your blue lights, then stand at attention outside your car as the procession arrives. All other officers that would like to remain will begin lining up in the procession shortly. But please make sure we do have some volunteers that leave now. If you have Interop 1 on your radio, it is C7 for HPD. Please turn to that frequency for further instructions that might be provided.
You've been watching special live coverage from Way 31 of the funeral of Huntsville police officer Billy Clardy III. The funeral has just ended here in the Mayfair Church of Christ on Carl T. Jones Drive in Jones Valley. You can see folks beginning to exit the sanctuary. Billy Clardy was shot and killed in the line of duty on Friday. We heard from a number of people who knew him best, those who worked with him, members of the city administration. In fact, Mayor Tommy Battle spoke very emotional about Officer Clardy, gave him his first ride-along when he became mayor, and was not only a good police officer, but a good friend, he called him. He also mentioned that people always wanted to be a part of whatever Clardy started. And Clardy was a pillar in this community. Many of us didn't even know him until just a few days ago. Many of us wished we had known him because he was just that kind of